The ballot rigging continues in the United States. The left very eager to remove Donald Trump from ballots, much the same way they've removed all of Joe Biden's primary opponents from ballots across the country as well. The United States Supreme Court on Friday, as we were getting towards the end of this program, announced that they are going to hear former President Trump's appeal to the Colorado Supreme Court's decision to kick him off the state ballot. They're set to take this up on an accelerated timetable. Oral arguments for Trump's appeal are set for February 8th of 2024, coming up in just a few short weeks. Here to talk about that and so much more is Mike Davis, the founder and president of the Article 3 Project. Mike, good to have you with us, sir.
Thank you for having me back on.
So the Supreme Court is taking this up. What does that convey to you?
I think the Supreme Court is going to reverse the Colorado Supreme Court's egregiously unconstitutional decision quickly. And it should be 9-0 if the 3 Democrat-appointed Supreme Court justices have any integrity. If they want to follow the law, they should reverse the Colorado Supreme Court decision with the 6 Republican-appointed justices, because this is so clearly unconstitutional what the Colorado Supreme Court has done.
Yes. Well, not only follow the law, but also stabilize the country. We're in such an intense political environment. And if you even give people like a tiny sliver of belief that it is justified to rig ballots, then, boy, that can cause chaos, can't it, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, think about this. The Democrats' argument is they're going to save democracy by destroying democracy, by taking away millions of people's right to vote for the presidential candidate of their choice, disenfranchise half the country. And they want to do this under a bogus legal theory. They want to use a post-Civil War constitutional provision to chase out of office those who engaged in the Civil War, insurrection or rebellion against the United States. They're trying to dust this off to take out their political opponent, their chief political opponent. If you can't beat them, indict him, bankrupt him, illegally gag him, impeach him. If that doesn't work, just disqualify it.
No, that's exactly right. And to put a finer point on it, that was created in order to address the sins of Democrats during the Civil War, and now it's being used against Trump. They're alleging that he committed an insurrection, and so thus Article 3 of the 14th Amendment justifies this, or Section 3 of the 14th Amendment justifies all of this. Why are they wrong?
They're clearly wrong because there is an opinion on point, the Griffin's case, from then Chief Justice Salmon Chase from more than 150 years ago, that held if you want to disqualify under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, Congress has to pass a federal criminal statute for insurrection or rebellion with a disqualification provision, which Congress did more than 150 years ago. That statute, updated, is still on the books. Jack Smith, the Biden Justice Department, the January 6th committee in the House spent tens of millions of dollars looking for evidence of insurrection or rebellion against Trump, and they didn't find it, and it's because it doesn't exist. Trump said to go in peacefully and protest, right? And it was a peaceful riot, lawful protest, peaceful protest, lawfully permitted by the National Park Service. They got out of control and devolved into a riot. How many insurrectionists go into a nation's capital, get to the Senate floor unarmed, walk through velvet ropes, follow police direction, and don't burn down the damn place? And remember, this riot started before Trump even ended his speech, right?
And Trump wasn't there, and Trump called for peace.
Yeah, he said peacefully. And there was not an insurrection on January 6th. It was a riot. Trump did not incite that riot. Otherwise, he would have been charged for inciting that riot by Jack Smith, who is not shy about bringing bogus legal theories to go after Republican presidential candidates, like he did to former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, like he's doing to Trump. He's going to get reversed unanimously by the Supreme Court again if he continues to go down this path.
Now, additionally, I don't know what bearing this plays, and maybe you can help me out with it, but the second impeachment process for Donald Trump included an article of impeachment for incitement of insurrection, and he was acquitted in the United States Senate on that charge. And so wouldn't that have any bearing whatsoever on whether or not you can even accuse him of being involved in a so-called insurrection?
Yeah, I mean, that Trump did raise that argument in his papers for a motion to dismiss, and that's something the courts may need to decide. I don't think the courts even need to get there because this is so clear under this federal criminal statute that you can't just have a state Supreme Court, four whack job Democrat justices on a 4-3 Colorado Supreme Court just decree that there was an insurrection.
Yes.
Trump incited it, and therefore he's disqualified. I sat through the 5-day trial out here in Colorado. It was an expedited election challenge. They let in boatloads of hearsay evidence. They didn't allow Trump to call the witnesses he wanted to call. It was not a proceeding that you would use. It did not have the due process, the procedural and substantive due process safeguards of a criminal trial. It was an expedited election challenge in front of a biased judge, Denver District Court Judge Sarah Wallace, who donated to an anti-Trump January 6th PAC to chase Republicans out of office. And when Trump's attorneys raised this, she refused to recuse. She committed reversible error. And then she found there was an insurrection, but then she flinched. She said that the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to the president. Well, the Colorado Supreme Court just came in and said, yep, it does apply to the president. He's gone. Well, that's not how it works under our Constitution. If you want to disqualify, you have to go under that federal criminal statute, get a federal grand jury to indict, a federal jury to unanimously find guilt with evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, a federal judge to convict, and that federal conviction must be upheld on appeal under that specific insurrection or rebellion statute on the books right now with a disqualification provision. Jack Smith did not charge under that statute. He would have if he could have.
One other element here, as you mentioned, whether or not Section 3 of the 14th Amendment even applies here. One of the reasons that's up for debate is because of the phrase "officer of the United States." If I understand it correctly, the Trump side of the argument is that the president of the United States is not actually a quote officer of the United States because of a provision in Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution. What do I make of that?
That's an open question. You saw this Denver District Court judge who agreed with Trump's attorneys that the 14th Amendment does not apply to Trump as an officer. That's an open question. I don't think the Supreme Court even needs to get there. They don't need to get to that weighty constitutional question,
right?
Because there are many, many, many easier ways to get rid of this case.
Got it. So broadly, how looming is the threat of this ballot rigging all across the country, and how pressing is it that the court takes this up as quickly as possible?
Well, I mean, they need to take it up quickly because you see that these Democrats are establishing these bogus legal precedents in blue states like Colorado with the 4 whack job left-wing Supreme Court justices. In Maine, they just had this unelected non-lawyer Secretary of State, Shanna Bellows, just come in and say, yep, it feels insurrectiony. We're going to throw them off the ballot. So you're going to establish these egregiously unconstitutional precedents in blue states, and then Democrats are going to try to use this in the general election in swing states like Michigan. And so I would say this, the court needs to fix this, and the court certainly will. But if they don't, I think that when they go to count the electoral vote on January 6th, 2025, the House should not count any votes where they've used this bogus legal theory to disqualify a presidential candidate. Those are not legitimate results if you're just going to illegitimately take a presidential candidate off the ballot because you fear you can't beat them at the ballot box.
Let me shift gears to something you mentioned a few moments ago, Mike Davis, which is Jack Smith. He is the Biden special counsel dedicated to getting Trump. As of Friday, according to expenditure reports, he spent more than $12 million on this case so far trying to take Trump down. Now, as a special counsel, my impression is that he really has an unlimited pool of taxpayer money to spend in this mission, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And look at Robert Hur, the special counsel appointed to look into Biden's stolen classified records, 4 stashes of stolen classified records, moved several times, unguarded for years, accessible by their Chinese agent, almost certainly used by Hunter Biden to secure tens of millions of dollars in foreign corruption, including with Burisma. These included records when Biden was the vice president and when he was a senator. There's no excuse for the Senate documents. I don't know how you explain that. He must have stuffed them down his pants in the Senate skiff, right? And so nothing happens there. Robert Hur does a bogus, cursory investigation, spends almost no money on that. Contrast that with Jack Smith, who was the Scud missile Democrats bring in to take out presidential candidates. And he did it with former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, bogus corruption charge, bogus corruption conviction, reversed unanimously by the Supreme Court, 8-0. It would have been 9-0, but Justice Scalia passed away. It is very hard to get a conviction reversed by the Supreme Court, a criminal conviction reversed. It is nearly impossible for that to happen unanimously. And Jack Smith found the way. He's going to do it again this time. He's going after Trump for presidential records Trump is allowed to have under the Presidential Records Act. And he's also going after Trump for bogus theories under the January 6th theories are going to get, after that case is going to get reversed by the Supreme Court and these other unrelated cases. These related cases, but not dealing with Trump.
Right. Like if you were trying to do something like a legitimate job here, you wanted to assign somebody who was above board, who nobody could question, who would look into all of this and establish whether or not some wrongdoing was done, you wouldn't pick a guy who was overturned 8-0 by the Supreme Court, would you?
No, but that's the point. He's going to come in. He's going to try to get this criminal conviction with this D.C. Obama judge, Tanya Shucken, who's a partisan activist on the D.C. District Court. So you have this Biden special counsel, this Obama District Court judge. They're trying to get this very fast conviction in D.C. to interfere in the election, lawfare, to interfere in the 2024 election. And Jack Smith clearly doesn't care if he gets reversed by the Supreme Court after the election. His job is to take out Trump before the election, and Tanya Shucken's trying to go along with that.
Lastly, Mike Davis, and thank you as always for your time. Do you think that Jack Smith's appointment is even constitutional? I've seen quite a bit of questions raised over whether or not he's even eligible to be in this role.
It doesn't appear so because he wasn't a Senate-confirmed U.S. attorney before he got appointed into this role. He's not an officer of the United States. So I don't know how you can delegate this power through Department of Justice regulations to someone who's not a Senate-confirmed officer of the United States.
Yeah, there's that phrase again, officer of the United States. Hey, Mike Davis, thank you very much. Good to talk to you as always. Thank you, sir.